Now, normally when I do these videos, I usually talk about the episodes individually, but this time I'm not going to do that. This time I'm actually going to say what happens in these three episodes all at once, because unlike season one that had like an episodic structure, I mean, there was two-parters obviously, but this season it was mostly, a single episode had a single storyline and that was it. Season two doesn't have that. Season two has pretty much a singular structure with a story. So in other words, every episode carries on from where the last episode left off, which, in my opinion, is what the show needed, because it you want to know what happens next. So carrying on from where the first episode of season two left off, Ace and Sparks are now back in the sixth dimension, but of course they need to get out of there because, well, Lord Fear is back in the real world, leaving Mark to fend for himself. So I'm just trying to get comfortable here. There's just so much to talk about. The first major thing is, well, Ace is sending Mark a Morse code, and Mark asks Chuck to check it out, see if he works out what it means. And in doing so, Chuck discovers the whole secret. He discovers that Ace and the video game characters have come to life, and he pretty much becomes Ace's second sidekick, which is something that should have happened in the first series. This is something that should have happened ages ago. Chuck should have been one of Ace's sidekicks as early as episode 5, in my opinion, because it just makes him a much more better character. I mean, in season one, he's meant to be the comic relief that occasionally unknowingly helped out, but his antics they can get kind of annoying, and sometimes his involvement in the episode is pretty pointless. That's not the case in season two. He actually has a role in the overall plot. He's more of a, while Mark always tried to be a tech guy and an action guy for Ace, Chuck is clearly just a tech guy, leaving Mark to be more of an action guy. And because Mark's more of an action guy, he gets this cool little wrist cannon that shoots out lightning bolts, which isn't much, but because it's one of the few practical props that they have from the game, it's pretty decent to look at. And like I said, it gives Mark more of an action type hero. It makes him more stand out from Ace. It stops him always relying on Ace to help him out. And Chuck, he deals with all the technical stuff, like he gives Ace upgrades and tries to get Sparks out of the sixth dimension, which she's currently trapped in. Now let's talk about the sixth dimension for a minute, because unlike season one, which only showed brief glimpses of it through other characters playing the game, this time we actually get to see what it looks like, and it's the actual video game pretty much. They use the exact same models, the exact same locations in game, and it's actually pretty cool to look at. I mean, I'm not surprised that they were given permission to use, the models and the whole game files for the show. And I imagine, I think someone told me this. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the reason why they included elements from the actual video game was to promote the game. Of course, we all know how that turned out, but I'm not gonna, I can't fault the people behind the scenes about that, because how are they supposed to know that, you know, the sales for the game weren't going to go well? You can't. You can't really predict that sort of thing for something that's, not really been, that isn't a already existing IP really. But anyway, I'm blabbing on about something. Going back to what I was going back to the show itself. Um, Ace has managed to come out, and it. Before I carry on with Ace's little storyline, I've got to talk about the villains now. Now, we get introduced to a whole new. Actually, no. Before I get to Kilobyte, I will bring up that one of Lord Fear's plans to get more pieces of the amulet is to have Lady Illusion infiltrate Mark's home as a housekeeper. And during her time there, she steals pieces of the amulet. And with the amulet pieces, of course, Lord Fear summons all the villains. Well, not all of them, but he will. Eventually, they all do come back. But for now, he manages to bring Anvil, Dirty Rat, and a new villain who I didn't mention in the last video, I don't believe, called Rockgut, who's an undead zombie. I won't talk about him too much because there's an episode later on that pretty much focuses on him, so I'll talk about more about him then. But for now, he's an undead zombie who's just like Dirty Rat, a more comical villain. And he comes across as useless, but like I said, just stay tuned. That's all I'm going to say. Now, the idea of all the villains from season 1 coming back, Lord Fear, Lady Illusion, I can understand. And Googler also appears. He's not in the real world just yet, though. He's still trapped in the game, but he does appear, causing havoc for Ace and Sparks. But I personally feel, now that I think about it, I don't think they should have done that. I don't think I think they should have brought back new. They should have brought new villains in like Rockgut. I mean, another villain does get introduced, who I will talk about, but I don't know. Anvil, Dirty Rat, especially with Dirty Rat, I just don't feel like they were really necessary. If you know what I mean, I just don't feel like they really needed to come back. I feel like they should have just done whole new villains for season 2. And speaking of new villains, we have Kilobyte. Now, Kilobyte is I'm not going to say too much because there's a whole mystery. Because one of the things that makes Kilobyte appealing is there's a mystery to him. Because no one knows who he is, and none of the villains recognize him. The heroes don't know who he is yet. He's been hiding in the shadows so far, and the heroes haven't really encountered him yet, but none of the villains know who he is. All we know is he's not a friend of Fear, and he came from the Ferris wheel in the carnival. Speaking of which, I'm guessing they put a lot of the budget in the carnival because there's a lot more stuff included, like a golf course, a Ferris wheel, and it just seems bigger than the last season. But anyway, I'm not gonna, much like Rockgut, I'm not gonna mention too much about Kilobyte either because, like I said, there's a mystery surrounding him, and I don't want to talk about reveal too much in case people are actually watching the show right now. I mean, God, imagine that people are watching this because of these videos. But anyway, I mentioned the new girl, Kat, in the last review, and she and Mark have a few cute scenes together. I'm actually going to say this, be honest, but I think chemistry-wise, Mark and Kat are just better than him and Samantha. And maybe it's because she has a doesn't take crap from anyone type attitude, and I don't know, that just I just find that more appealing about her. And like I said, we'll see you again. I'll talk about more about her in later episodes of the season. There isn't, I will be honest, there isn't as much episodes in this series as season one had, but this is this is why this I think this improved the show in my opinion. This is they needed to do this because that was the problem with season one. There was too much filler. And going back to the characters, we've also got Brent and Heather, who has become, wow, she's a right cow in this season. Um, I mean, she had a bit of a, not really a, I mean, she was a bit of a snob in season one, but in this season, oh my god, they really exaggerated her. Let's just say her bitchiness in this season. Wow, she's the type of girl that you just can't stand, and I think she is hated in the fandom because of what she's like. I mean, I'm pretty much calling people around Mark's house while his parents are away without him knowing. Yeah, that is a wow, what a bitch. But yeah, yeah, I actually don't mind it. I do feel like season two needed more characters to stand out, and as much as I hate to say it, she's a good example of that. And going back to the video game characters now, Kilobyte, one of Kilobyte's powers is he can downgrade and upgrade characters, and he upgrades Lady Illusion with the ability to give Ace human emotions, which she does infect him with. And with those human emotions, he starts feeling, anger, frustration, stress, which Kilobyte believes will make him more weak. So it shows that unlike Lord Fear, who was more of a planner and direct action, Kilobyte goes for more psychological. He goes for more psychological warfare, and in many ways that does make him more dangerous. And also, unlike Lord Fear, Kilobyte, there's nothing comical about him, so he is designed to be a more serious, intimidating villain. I mean, Lord Fear was a talking skeleton wizard, while Kilobyte is like a human octopus hybrid. And, I feel like people would be more creeped out by that. But anyway, with these new emotions, Ace becomes a bit more reckless to the point that there's a scene where he thinks he's killed Chuck. And it's done seriously. It really just shows how this series, this season is going to be a bit more serious than season one, and how the stakes have have been raised, and it does make you wonder what's going to happen next, and it also makes you wonder which characters are going to come back from the game, and who and what is Kilobyte exactly. So we've just got to stay tuned and see what happens.